Dr. Jane Addams actually has credentials. She is a social psychologist who has been studying the boomerang kids trend in American families for the past 25 years. And I did not know it was 25 years old. Let's get some background first. A question that we often ask here on the Jane Pauley Show is, when did this become okay?
This became okay in this generation of baby boomers' kids. And it became okay because baby boomers, of whom I am one, want for their children something that a previous generation didn't want. We want our kids to be happy. That's our primary value for them. Our parents wanted us to be economically secure. They came through a depression and a world war. We as parents grew up in an expanding economy, and we just put a lot of emphasis on our kids' personal happiness.
Well, if we did, then the Joneses did a really great job, because
they did. They raised a kid whose personal happiness.
But he's not a kid. He's 25 years old.
He's 25 years old.
Do you have advice for?
I do have advice. The advice is that if he wants to live an artistic lifestyle, then he needs to find a way to support it. Every writer, every musician, every artist I know has a day job until they get to a point where they can support themselves through their art. I know a lot of musicians who support themselves by playing weddings and bar mitzvahs, and, you know, an Irish tenor who sings at funerals in New York here makes a very nice living.
I'm trying to imagine.
There are lots of other ways.
Well, I'm trying to imagine Chris playing twang at a funeral here in
But there are high school reunions. I mean, there are ways. You said yourself that you don't pay much attention to the business end of being an artist. There's not an artist who survives who doesn't have to pay attention to the business end. If you are uncompromising about not wanting to get a job in a field other than music, then you need to look at this in a businessman kind of way, in a business-like kind of way. And so I think it's really necessary to say to Chris, yes, you have a lovely, cushy life, and it's over. Because not only is it necessary for Chris's independence, it's necessary for the two of you. I know that when we talked before, I said, what happened when Chris said he wanted to come home? Did you and Martha discuss it? And you said yes, and Martha said no. You told me. And this is a real source of irritation in the family.
We're going to take the heat off the Jones family for just a moment, because we have two other boomerang kids here that I'm anxious for you to meet. Dr. Addams, you give these families advice. A lot of us are listening very closely and taking notes, some of us for future purposes. But what is your advice for this family?
Well, I was struck by the fact that both Missy and Greg have very clear dreams about their dream jobs and what they wanted. And what I think is really important to focus on is that we're not looking in the first job for the dream job, the green job, the career job. We're looking for the job that teaches you to be physically self-sufficient, to pay your own rent, to put your own food on the table, to take care of your transportation, and to take care of your health insurance.
Yes, I agree with you.
And it's important to have a dream. And I think for Greg particularly, he had a big dream. And it must be very difficult in the relatively small world that you inhabit to live among the people who were there with the dream, who expected you also to go to the Olympics. I think that must be really hard. And my advice is that, I mean, Greg seemed to enjoy teaching and working with kids. And the real Olympic spirit is to come back from failure.
Yes.
We don't educate our kids for failure. We don't teach them about getting up and going back in the ring or wherever it is.
We only tell them when the dreams come true, not when they don't. My advice is you listen to someone other than myself or your parents. Of course, we all want what's best for our kids. We want to support them. But when should we stop supporting them for their own good and our own peace of mind? Dr. Addams, you have some personal experience, you know, whereof you speak.
Yes, my son came home from college and did basically what these kids did. He slept all day, and, you know, I left out ads from the classifieds. That's the way you did it in those days. He ignored them. And finally, after 3 months of having his friends eating me out of house and home and having it be a party house, I said, that's it. I will pay your rent, your share of the rent, in a shared house with your friends for 3 months, and that's all. If you want to eat or drink or drive or date, that's up to you. And 3 months is it.
Quickly, why guys? It's because it is a heavily male phenomenon.
Partly because girls really still have to fight for independence, and boys kind of are born with it. I mean, that's just the way it is. The other thing is, girls can't have a sex life under their parents' roof with impunity.
Well,
And boys can go out and come back at 6 in the morning and their parents don't say.
All right. 5 points. A lot of us are paying careful attention so that we do everything that we can to launch adults into the world. And these are your 5 points. Name the problem, meaning?
Name the problem. It may be dependency. It may be addiction. It may be a number of things. It may just be laziness. You have to name it. And you have to be clear about what it is. And then you have to figure out what it is you know about that. If it's dependency, I mean, I think that Missy and Wilma are a good example. There's a real regression and a dependency going on there. And dependency takes 2.
Dependency takes 2 was number 2. Turn over responsibility.
That's right. These parents' problem, the problems about the kids' jobs are not their problems. Their problem is, when am I going to call the painter to redo their room? These are the kids' problems. They have to solve them. To try, for instance, to stand over them about a job hunt, you should be calling this person back, you shouldn't. We don't know how to job hunt in 2004. We job hunted in 1960, 70, 80. It's a very different world. We're giving advice that we really don't know where we're coming from. Let them do it themselves.
Set limits for yourself.
You can only set limits for yourself. You can't set them for your kids. Your limit is you're out the day after tomorrow. You know, when a lot of parents say, well, we give them chores to do, they have to pay rent, $100 a month. That's not real life. That's thinking that there are still teachable moments at 23 and 24. You are a teacher and you know that. There are teachable moments, but they're not going to come in the context of a parent-child relationship. What you want to do is to build to a peer relationship.
Reinvest in yourself.
That's the most important thing. Part of the reason that we hold on to our kids is that we have put so much of our effort into them. We need to be reinvesting in our marriage, in our careers, in our lives, and let our kids get on with their own.
So Justin just got his happy ending. What's in store for the rest of the families?